We live in an era where advanced technologies has been going around widely spread throughout the world compared to the past. But the reason we could overcome our problems and to be able to be in this moment, we must have all kinds of research going here and there. And let's be realistic here, the most important thing in this world for everyone is money, right? And for us to be able to get the money is for us to be knowledgeable. And I'll argue on proposition's argument about digital creative skill could also be useful later on. But before that, I'm going to give my claim as the opposition here. One is that as a middle class parent, we would highly encourage our child to receive formal education. And two, we're not prohibiting any individuals to explore their creativity through digital creative. Hence, proposition cannot say that in our side there will be less creativity skill because people are expect to be prioritizing their formal education, because we're only talking in the context of a middle class parent here. So there will still be people who are pursuing their skill on the creative career. And so our side of the house only going to prohibit our children to prioritize their formal education. Now, answering some responses towards the proposition case is that talking about their justification, they're talking about how individuals' happiness is what define the individual's happiness is fundamental and cannot be taken. But talking about a realistic case here, as a middle class parent, what could be truly to be in our happiness is for our child to not feel right. We want our child to be successful in the future so that they can enjoy themselves later on. And happiness is not just defined by following your dream. You can also be happy when you are success. You can also be happy when you receive something nice. It's not always by following your dream that you can be happy. So letting them prioritizing from education does not mean that we're taking away their happiness. And also the proposition keeps talking about how the world has moved to a digital era, but it is in the end just another innovation happening. The fact that we are a middle class parent does not disappear. We still need to make sure that all child would get all the benefit that could then make them in the future more successful. We need to make sure that our child did not fail as us. Now to move back to my case, I'm going to bring out two arguments here. First about the justification and second about the benefits. So first of all, the justification. Before talking about the justification, I'm going to elaborate on why formal education is so important, to the point that it is way more important than a creative digital skill. Keep in mind that we are playing as the role of a middle class parent here. So let's characterize that part first. First, we do have enough living for our expenses, but the problem here is how long till we survive with what we have. You see, we do have a job that pays just fine, but not enough for us to luxurize ourselves. So we have no such guarantee that would be given to our child in the future. And two, let's be realistic. As someone who have failed, it is just normal for us to want our child to don't go the same way, right? We have been a living proof that we have failed and cannot receive a higher proper paying job. And because of that, we want our child to be able to receive that job. So for that to be able to be done, we want our children to receive a proper formal education. I'm not saying that if the child receives formal education, they would be guaranteed to have a successful life here, no. But in this world, knowledge is what holds the power. If you have enough knowledge, you could utilize it as something impactful for your own. It's a matter of how you're gonna use your power. Now, back to education. Why is it so important for our child why is it important for our child to receive the formal education? Because the world is such a cruel place for someone so vulnerable. And the vulnerable people I'm talking here is people with no such knowledge. How so? The hierarchy we have and society somehow makes it so. Take an example, the government. For you to be able to become the government is that you have to be able to have a wide knowledge, right? And not just any people could become the government. And with the knowledge the government holds, he could then make such decision for his country and his people. And by that being said, he has the power to control his people with his knowledge. And that's why there's a saying that power is in the hand of those who have knowledge. To see how important knowledge could benefit you, it is just right for the middle-class parent to expect their child to receive a formal education for their future's sake. And you can only defeat knowledge with knowledge. And in this cruel world, the only way for people like us to survive is to compete with each other. Now, to my second point, talking about the actual case here, why is it justified for us to push our child to prioritize formal education? Because one, we live in a very vulnerable state. The only thing holding up our family's necessities is because our financial outcome, and that comes from ourselves. And our child could not forever rely on it. They need to learn on their own and get a much more stable job. We're pushing them to get a proper education was not for nothing. It is for their own best. Because no matter what, with such kind of knowledge, you could always survive this living hell. And as a good parent, we will accompany our child through their study material. We will also encourage him by explaining why then it is so important for them to receive formal education. And communication is the key, once they understand that this is something that could entirely affect their life, we believe that at that point is where the children would get more willingness to receive formal education. And of course, they might get a bit disappointed by the fact that they couldn't follow their dream. But if we're talking about happiness, it is not something one can achieve just by following their dream. Letting them understand how important the things we're pushing them for is what a good parent does. Because we're not living in some fantasy land where you could be happy by doing what you want. We live in a world where you would get destroyed by those who hold the most power. And in fact, you could still get happiness in our side of the house in the end. Because when you have already received the formal education, you can then become more knowledgeable and could get a much proper job. And when you get a much proper job, you could then produce more stable financial, and that what makes you happy because you can now enjoy your life. So the happiness still come in outside of the house, or even if you didn't in the end get a proper job, you still have that knowledge that could benefit you in other way, like you would not be easily tricked by people and so on. So in the end, our side still holds the both happiness and still got a good knowledge. But in their side, you only get the happiness by doing letting the children do what they want, but you didn't let the children understand how cruel the world really is. And that's why we're proud to oppose.